sing of all you've done, and I'll remember how far you carried me from beginning until the end. 'Cause you are faithful, faithful to the end. You left
A father's heart that's for me, a never-ending story, a love that's always chasing me. Kindness overwhelming, a hope for me unending. He's never given up on me, no.
and I will sing of all you've done, and I'll remember how far you carried me from beginning until the end. 'Cause you are faithful, faithful to the end, and I will sing of all you've done, and I'll remember how far you carried me from beginning until the end. 'Cause you are faithful, faithful to the end. Until the
Come on, let's declare this truth together. There wasn't a day.
There wasn't a day that you were by my side. There wasn't a day that you let me fall. In all of my life, your love has been true. And with all of my life, I will worship you. There wasn't a day that you were by my side. There wasn't a day that you let me fall. In all of my life, your love has been true. And with all of my life, I will worship you.
Yeah.
I will worship you.
We worship you. We worship. We worship.
I will worship you.
For all you've done.
I will worship you.
Come on, every voice, let's declare this.
There wasn't a day that you're not by my side. There wasn't a day that you let me fall. In all of my life, your love has been true. In all of my life, I will worship you. There wasn't a day that you weren't by my side. There wasn't
Soul City Church, we are so glad that you are here. We want to continue on singing, lifting up the name of Jesus, singing of his love towards us. We want to focus our time declaring his love in this place. So let's sing this out together, proclaiming his truth this morning. Before I spoke a word, you were singing over me. Come on, declare he's good. 'Cause you have been so, so good to me. Yeah. Before I took a breath, you breathed your life in me. 'Cause you have been so, so kind to me. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, it chases me down, fights till I'm found, leaves the 99, and I couldn't earn, I don't deserve, still you give yourself away. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Yeah. Ooh, yeah. So we want God. Let's declare this truth together. This is good news. When I was your foe, still your love fought for me. 'Cause you have been so, so good to me. When I felt no worth, you paid it all for me. Thank you, Lord. You have been so, so kind to me. Yeah. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, it chases me down, fights till I'm found, leaves me 99, and I couldn't earn it, I don't deserve it, still you give yourself away. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Come on, every voice. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountains you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountains you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, oh, coming after me. No shadow you won't light up, mountains you won't climb up, coming after me. No wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. No shadow you won't Father God, we are so grateful for your love. Lord, no matter the height, the depth, your love is never ending. Lord, may we feel this love, may we experience this love, even now in this place. And God, we just pray that as we continue on in the service, Lord, that you would do what only you can do. In Jesus' mighty name we pray. Amen. Amen. You can, before you grab a seat, why don't you high five someone next to you and then you can have a seat.
Well, hello. Good Sunday morning to you, 11:30. It is good to see you. My name is Kelly. I'm one of the pastors here, and we are about one thing at Soul City. We are just, first of all, a normal group of broken people. But the thing that we have in common is that we love Jesus and are doing everything we know how to follow him. And in our mission, we say that we are all about leading people into a transforming relationship with Jesus. So whether you're just figuring out what that means or whether you're really clear on what that means and you're just wanting to continue to grow, we are so glad that you're here. We actually want to connect with you outside of just Sundays. And so in the Bible, in the seat back in front of you, there's this card. And on one side, it says, I'm new here. And if you're new, we're so glad that you're here. Go ahead and fill it out. You can place that in the bucket as it goes by later on in the gathering. The other side says, I'm ready. So if you are ready to take a next step in serving or getting to know some people around here, we would love to know who you are. And debuting today for the very first time is our electronic way to connect. Are we fancy or are we fancy? Yes, we are. If you are allergic to pen and paper or you're just self-conscious about your handwriting, worry no more. You can text an SCC ready, and you can even show that at our guest services counter. You can show that to them. We would love to give you a gift if it's your very first time here. Well, coming up in a few weeks is our Soul City 9th anniversary. And we love to celebrate around here. Anniversary is such a special time for us to not only reflect back on what God has done, but to move forward and to look forward into the future with vision of what God is calling us to in the next season. So you want to make sure that you don't miss out on that. It's going to be a fun celebration. So many people come on Anniversary Sunday that we would love for you to get a free ticket so we know when you're coming. Go ahead over to our website, /anniversary. Let us know when you're going to be here. It is going to be such a fun party coming up in November. But in this month, October, it's the month of Halloween. That's coming up. That's going to be fun. It's the month where the leaves change colors. It's also Pastor Appreciation Month. Did you know that? It's Pastor Appreciation Month. Now you know. Now you know. And we did not want this month to go by without appreciating our two lead pastors, Jarrett and Jeannie Stevens. There they are. I mean, this is a beautiful couple, first of all. Let's just call a spade a spade. But more importantly than that, we are just so grateful for their leadership of Soul City. So let's take a moment and pray for them now. God, we are just so grateful for Jeannie and Jarrett's yes to you. Their courageous yes to this vision of a church in Chicago on the west side that has changed my life and has changed so many of the people's lives sitting here in this community today. And God, we're grateful for their courage, their audacity, their creativity, their vision. But most of all, we are grateful that they are people that point us to you, God. That they live to be like you. And that as I'm around them, as we're around them, we're reminded of what it looks like to live a God-centered life. And so, God, in this next season, I pray your blessing over their family. And God, I pray in this next season, they would be closer to you than ever before. And I pray that as a community, we would be their community, supporting them and encouraging them as they lead the way. And it's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Amen. Well, speaking of pastor appreciation and pastors, one of our lead pastors, Jeannie Stevens, is back here on stage at Soul City for the very first time in a few months. So would you please help me give a very warm Soul City welcome to our lead pastor, Jeannie Stevens. Yes. asked for that entrance every time from here on out. Always the confetti. Soul City, I missed you. It is so good to be home. I feel like Dorothy wanting to say there's no place like home. I just forgot my ruby slippers. But it is so, so good to be back here. So good to be at my home with my people. Oh, it is filling my heart to be with you. And for just a second, Jarrett is going to come. He's going to kick off this new series. It's going to be incredible. I've heard it twice now. It's a great, great message. But I arm wrestled him for just a few minutes, and I won about 10. And so I just want to share with you what God has been doing in my life and in my heart over the last 3 months, and just say thank you to you for how you have loved and supported me over these amazing, amazing days of being on sabbatical with God. I think many of you know, oh, okay, that could have been a distraction. Do I look better now? Okay. I think many of you know that I walked into my sabbatical totally different than how I planned to walk into my sabbatical. On June 5th, my brother of 44 years passed away very suddenly in his sleep, leaving behind my sister-in-law and my sweet nephew, who actually just celebrated today is his first birthday today, and we had a birthday party for him yesterday. So I walked into my sabbatical so different than how I had planned. If I were the solo writer of my story, I would have never written that into the plot. But many of us, we know this. We're not the solo writer, right? And we walk through life, and there are circumstances that come into our lives that change how we live. And so leaving on sabbatical, I'm sure you can imagine, was multifaceted for me. And this is a very real picture of my daughter at my brother's graveside, holding my nephew. And this is the same day that I took off for Africa. So it was incredibly, incredibly confusing, to say the least, to trust that God had something for me and to also be leaving with so much grief in our family. And when I left for Africa, just 1 month after my brother passed, I cleared out my inbox. I got it down to 0, which is a miracle in and of itself. There's the fish and the loaves, there's the parting of the sea, and there's Jeannie's inbox at 0. They're all recorded somewhere in the Old Testament. And so I got my email down to 0. I was so proud of myself. And something that I'm not so proud of is that I put my first ever out of office on my email, and I didn't check it for 3 months. And I put this in the message of my outgoing email. I am clinging to the hope in Isaiah 30:15 that in repentance and rest is your salvation, in quietness and trust is your strength. And I can tell you, God has answered that in the most miraculous ways over the last 3 months. Climbing Kilimanjaro was an absolutely life-transforming experience. I like to say it out loud regularly. I climbed Mount Kilimanjaro. I just like to say it out loud because sometimes I have to say it to still believe that that actually happened. I climbed Kilimanjaro. We have changed all of my letterhead here now to say Jeannie Stevens, climber of Kilimanjaro. I still can't believe that that happened. And so many things occurred on that mountain. I learned how to sleep in a sleeping bag, in a tent, on the side of a mountain. I hiked every day for about 6 to 10 hours. One day was 20 hours of hiking. I had no cell service, and I absolutely loved it. It was delightful to truly be disconnected and to just be with God I climbed above the clouds, which was an experience in and of itself. In fact, I brought along a video to show me getting above the clouds. Here is this. All right. I am above the clouds right now. First time in my life. This is so unbelievably hard. And I cannot believe I am here. But I had to record the fact that I am above the clouds. The clouds, I'm above them. Above. Not below. Above. That's right. At about 16,000 feet, the air is really thin, so you're not thinking really accurately. So, nor are you speaking really accurately. But it was an incredible experience, and the real honest truth is it was the hardest physical thing I have ever done. I pushed my physical limits beyond anything that I have ever pushed them. I made it to 18,000 feet. Which is 1,366 feet shy of the summit. And I am so proud of myself. I went there looking to summit. God took me there for a very different reason. It had nothing to do with the summit. It had everything to do with what he wanted to teach me on the side of that mountain. And one of the greatest gifts he gave me at 18,000 feet, when I heard so clearly from God that I had climbed enough, was I received the incredible blessing and gift of limits. You know that our limits are a gift, right? I just have gone 46 years not wanting to embrace my limits. And God gave me the very good gift of saying, you have done enough. And so I came down, and I'm so proud of my 18,000 feet, and I'm going back to get the other 1,366 one day. God used every single step to remind me of his presence. I feel like the best way to describe myself is that there is a pre-Jeannie Kilimanjaro and there's a post-Jeannie Kilimanjaro. I don't feel like the same person. And God used that mountain in so many transforming ways. This is a picture of me the first moment I got off the mountain. I'm smiling because I'm outside of a real bathroom. It was delightful to get back to a real bathroom, to take a shower, to receive those kinds of blessings. After Kili, my family met me, and we went on to Moala, Kenya, where Soul City has over 600 children that have chosen to start a relationship, a sponsorship relationship with you. And I got to introduce my kids to Mongeli, who is the little girl in Moala, Kenya, that chose us as a family. And it was so delightful to meet her family and to spend time together. And I have to say, as a parent, I was so incredibly proud of my children. So proud of them as they carried water jars from village to village. So proud of them as they learned how to farm. So proud of them as they drove many, many miles on bumpy land throughout the villages of Kenya. All of the children wanted to touch my daughter's hair, and so she was incredible. And Elijah, even when we visited a school, was invited to give an impromptu speech. And he stepped up and gave a speech. And I was just so proud of my kids. And we got to go on and have an incredible experience on safari in the Masai Mara. Our kids got to actually see an elephant, real, live, and close, not behind zoo bars. We saw hippos and giraffes and so many lions, and it was stunning. We traveled on, and we were able to visit Paris and introduce our kids to that amazing city. We were there on the hottest day recorded in Paris history. It was 108, and I will just say that the top of the Eiffel Tower at 108 is not very romantic. your two lead pastors got into a royal fight at the top of the Eiffel Tower, and I still don't know what it was about, other than the heat. So we visited Paris. We went on to one of our favorite cities, London, had lots of adventures there. We tried to meet up with Harry and Meghan, but they were giving birth to a baby, and so that didn't work out. We spent multiple weeks at home just being still and slowing our RPMs and reading and journaling. And I organized all my closets, which was delightful for this person that is OCD. And then I was able to fly out to Seattle at the end of my sabbatical, and actually I was able to help launch Chosen into the world. That little experiment that we did here back in February, being the very first church to ever reverse child sponsorship, has now been a revolutionary shift in how World Vision does child sponsorship. For 4 decades, the sponsor has chosen. And this little church here in Soul City Church, we reversed all of that. We reversed all of that, and we put the empowerment into the hands of a child. And so I got to speak at the World Vision Day of Prayer with one of my heroes there, Rich Stearns, and another hero, Winifred, who is the area director, program leader of Moala, Kenya. And so it was an incredible, incredible experience. And so how am I returning? People have asked, how do you really feel coming back? And I am excited. I am so excited to be back to my home with my people. I am so grateful. I cannot say enough how thankful I am for the elders of this church, our incredible staff that stepped up in the most amazing ways. Our executive pastor, Kelly Skiles, is a boss. She's just a straight boss and a great leader. And this church was in capable hands. And so I am beyond grateful to their leadership. I am more willing and ready to step out in faith, to blow up all of the boats of safety and step out on the water and walk with Jesus like never before. I believe Soul City's best days are not behind her. I believe her best days are in front of her. And I am more excited, more called, more clear, and more compelled to call us into a movement of faith that transforms our lives like never before. And so that's how I'm feeling coming back. I can hardly wait. And so many people have asked me, like, Jeannie, was there a moment on the mountain that changed, things for you? And I would say to you, there were so many. In fact, I'm going to talk a lot about it this Friday night at Eden. So shameless plug, ladies in the house, you need to be at Eden. It's going to be incredible. But if I were to say there was one moment that was so transforming to me, the night that we were about to summit, we had to climb to base camp. And to get to base camp, you actually have to walk through a valley. And as we were hiking through this valley to get to the base camp, before we would go up for the summit, a girl behind me that became a friend, Andrea, put on some worship music. And we were just hiking through this valley, and the song that we just sang, The Reckless Love of God, came on. And as that song was just playing, and as we were walking through this valley, the words, "There's no mountain you won't climb up, coming after me," arrested my heart in a way that the ever-present, tangible Spirit of God came so close and said, I see you. I see your grief, I see your pain, I see your loss, and I have come climbing up this mountain for you, Jeannie. There is nowhere that you can go in this world, no place that you can hide. I will climb any mountain coming after you. And in that moment, the guide that was leading us thought something was wrong with me because I began to weep. I mean, not just like a tear trickling down my face, a weeping, a guttural weeping, a releasing of grief that was being held in my body. And the guide that was leading us came back around to me. He thought something was wrong. He thought that maybe something had happened, and he took my backpack off of me. And the group that I was climbing with just stood around and held space as I wept and I let the grief pour out of my body for those next 10 to 15 minutes. And then we began to walk again. And what I didn't realize in the moment was that that guide carried my backpack the rest of the way. And when we got to that base camp, I just felt the whisper of the Holy Spirit saying to me, not only will I climb up any mountain you are on, but I will carry the burdens that you are carrying. I will carry that grief for you. And so what I want to say to you today is I know some of you are climbing up a mountain, and it is a very real mountain. You are carrying something, and it is heavy, and it is burdensome. And I want to say to you today, there is no mountain that he won't climb up coming after you. His grace is sufficient. His love makes no sense, but it transforms everything. So Soul City, I want to ask you to stand, and I want us to sing this song, and I want us to sing it in such a way like we believe it, like we know it, like that reckless love of God is literally transforming who we are.
Grab a seat. Man, Jeannie, it is so good to have you back. This place is not the same without you. And we did the best we could to hold it down while you were gone, but it's just better that you're here. And I'm just so grateful for all that God did in and through you and me and us together on this, and what a gift we have. So, and I also just made one of the biggest mistakes. I've learned this over the last 23 years of being married to her. Never follow Jeannie. What was I thinking? You already got the sermon for the day. What am I going to just do? Just going to say some stuff now. Man, all right. Well, let's try it together to see what we can do. God's grace, something's going to happen here. Welcome to Soul City. I'm so glad you're here, and I think it's so important that you just pay attention to this, that you decided to take time today to grow in your relationship with God. Really two sides of that. To grow a relationship with God, because maybe you're brand new to this whole faith thing and you're just exploring it, or to grow in a relationship with God that you already have. It's significant. There's a lot of things you said no to say yes to being here right now, whether you're here physically or watching online. So I am so glad you're here. My name is Jarrett, Jeannie's husband, one of the lead pastors here at Soul City. And today we're kicking off a teaching series, a 3-part teaching series, just 3 parts, but I'm so excited about it because it is getting after something that matters so much to me and to our church. The teaching series is called Jesus Said What? And that's really like if anyone asks you, what did they talk about at church today? You have to say it just like that. Jesus said what? And so we're going to be looking at the tough and the transformational teachings of Jesus. There's lots of things that we give Jesus credit for saying that he actually never said. It's actually not in the Bible. We just say, I think Jesus said that somewhere. And then there's lots of things Jesus clearly said that we just don't pay attention to. And so for the next couple weeks, we're going to look at what was it that Jesus said that was maybe at the time shocking or even challenging to us today, and how can we be transformed by the truth that's within his teaching. And today we're going to look specifically at our heart and what's at the center of our heart. And then ultimately, what we're going to seek, and my hope is that you'll be able to walk out of here answering this question. Who's the boss of your heart? Who's in control of your heart? Now, little question like survey in the room. How many of you, and I don't want you to own this, if this is true of you, please actually own this, because this is an amazing thing to be true of you. How many of you would say that you're actually a pretty good dancer? Raise your hand if you're actually, and keep your hand up, pretty good dancer. At weddings, people are like, oh, okay. You're a pretty good dancer, right? Some of you are even professional dancers. Okay, here's my follow-up question to you. What's that like? Because how does that feel to be good at dancing? Because I am not good at dancing, especially slow dancing. I am not good at that. With Jeannie, I just get all the awkwardness of a middle schooler. I went to a Christian high school. We weren't allowed to dance. So I blame them. So years ago, for Valentine's Day, I bought Jeannie a really special gift because you can imagine with doing what we do, we go to a lot of weddings. We do a lot of weddings. So I said, hey, I got us a private couples dance lesson. Yeah, thank you. And the dance lessons weren't for her as much as they were for me. And the private part was to spare her any more embarrassment of having to dance with me. And so we set it all up, and the person came and met us, and kind of laid out the ground rules. Now, I thought for sure, my hope and desire was that we were going to learn cool, contemporary stuff. We would have a couples pop and lock thing, going on, that we could just shut every wedding down with. But that's not what our instructor came to teach us. What our instructor came to teach us was dances like the waltz and the cha-cha and the foxtrot. All the dances that the cool kids are doing. And so she started teaching us, and right a song or two in, she stopped. She literally stopped. She goes, stop. This isn't working. And I felt it too, and I think Jeannie did too. And she's like, this isn't working. Here's the thing. And then she said something that's actually very true of not only our dancing style, but also of our marriage as a whole. She said, you're both trying to lead. You both can't lead. In other words, you both can't be the boss in this scenario, okay? One of you leads and the other one follows. And she said, in dances like these, traditionally, in dances like these, it's the man who leads. And I don't know if I said it too loud or too soon, but I went, yes! Because finally I felt like I had someone seeing things from my perspective in our marriage. And so I said, babe, that's the deal. And I'm sorry, it's just the rules. I got to lead on this one. You got to follow. And so she agreed that she would follow me as I led in these dances. And I don't know. I think we were maybe half a song in the next song where we're trying to do this. And do you know what Jeannie does? As she's letting me lead, she's whispering in my ear, left 1, 2, right 1, 2. She can't help but tell me what to do. God help her. Because it's just in her. And so it was so frustrating. And this is a true story. We couldn't do it. And we went one more lesson, and then our instructor quit on us. She literally said, it's not going to work. I'm not the right person for you. And then she gave us the name of a couple therapists and couples counselors. No, because, look, okay, so here's what's true in that story. What was that story all about? What does that have to do with Jesus? Okay, here's what's true. And this is true that you can see there's a struggle in our relationships. You've probably felt this. If you're in a relationship or been in a relationship, you felt the struggle. If you've ever tried to ballroom dance with Jeannie, you felt the struggle. But I would say it's actually where it really lives is inside of each of us personally. There actually is an ongoing struggle. And the struggle is simply this: who's going to be the boss of me? That's really what's going on. Who's going to be the boss of me? Now, you know that phrase, right? The boss of me? How many of you are younger siblings, like you have older brothers or sisters? Yeah, this was our go-to phrase. You're not the boss of me. You're not the boss of me. You can't tell me what to do, right? And that is so much of what's going on, and specifically as we get to this teaching we're about to look at in Jesus, it is a question all about who is going to be the boss of me. And what we're about to see is that Jesus is going to remind us of something that I believe we actually already know, but so often forget. He's asking you this very, very, very simple question today, but it's an utterly spiritual question. Who's going to be the boss of you? Who are you going to let lead your one and only life? So what I want you to do is grab a Bible and open to Matthew chapter 6. If you brought a Bible with you, we'll mark you down for extra credit. If not, there should be a Bible right under your seat or on the armrest up on the balcony, and it looks just like this. It's a little Soul City Bible. And you can actually turn to page 787. If you're kind of new to the Bible or kind of getting familiarized with it, that'll just fast track you there. Go to page 787, and that will get you to Matthew chapter 6. I'm going to give you a little quick context as to where we're coming at with this challenging teaching of Jesus. Matthew chapter 6 is right in the middle of the most famous sermon in the history of the world. It's the Sermon on the Mount, in this incredibly deep and complex sermon that Jesus gives over Matthew 5, 6, and 7. This is right in the middle of it. And in Matthew chapter 6, Jesus has already been talking about what it looks like to give to those who are actually in need. He talks a lot about prayer, about trusting God with all of our life. And as we're about to see, then Jesus talks about money. And he talks about it very honestly and unapologetically. He talks about money. In fact, if you know anything about Jesus and the teachings of Jesus, he talked a lot about money. Like, a lot about money. And I know some people get weird when they go to church, like, oh my gosh, church and money, it's weird. You're right, in some places it really is. But with Jesus, it's not weird to him. He's so incredibly honest about it. He talks about money more than he talks about heaven and hell. Talks about money more than he talks about marriage and family. Talks about money more than he talks about any of the hotbed cultural issues of our day combined. He talks about money. In fact, he talks about it so much, you may begin to think, well, why is that? Is it because Jesus is obsessed with money? Actually, no. It's because we are. And he knows the power and what can happen when money gets control of our hearts and our lives. And so that's why he just talks so honestly about what's at the heart of the issue of money. So this is Matthew 6, verse 19. It says this, and maybe you've heard this before. Do not store up for yourselves treasures on earth. Don't get caught up or invested in treasures here on earth where moth and vermin can destroy and where thieves can break in and steal. But instead he says, store up for yourselves, and I'm going to ask you to shout the word back to me here in a second, but store up for yourselves treasures in heaven, not on earth. Don't get caught up or lost in the stuff of this world, but actually invest in the stuff of heaven, because the stuff of heaven, moths and vermin can't destroy it, and thieves can't break in and steal that. And then he sums it all up by saying this in verse 21, because here's the deal. Here's kind of the bottom line for Jesus. Where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. Where your treasure is, that's how you're going to find who's really in control, because that's where your heart will be also. Now, what's Jesus saying here? Is he preaching against money? I didn't see that. Did you see that? Not at all. Basically, what Jesus is just saying here is, hey, don't hang all of your hope and faith, don't give your one and only heart to things that will eventually fade and fail and fall apart. Rather, invest in things bigger than you, things that will outlive you. Things of God in this world that will actually outlast this world, and the impact of which echoes throughout eternity. And if you ever wonder how you're doing it, this whole idea of, man, am I kind of more invested in the stuff of this world or more invested in the stuff of God? Jesus just gave you a great litmus test. Remember what he said there at the end? If you want to know what's really going on or where things are at, if you want to know what has a hold of your heart, it's really easy. Just look to where you spend the most amount of time. Look at where the majority of your thoughts tend to go. Pay attention to the direction of the energy that you're giving yourself towards, and that will tell you what matters most to you. That's how you'll know. Pay attention to the time that you spend on things and the energy and the thoughts that you give to things, that is how you know what actually matters most to you. In other words, what Jesus is saying here is that the receipts don't lie. You just look at the receipts, like of your thoughts and of your energy and of your time. They don't actually lie. What does my time, my thoughts, my energy, what is it going towards? Because whatever it is, that is what has your heart. It's just true. And then Jesus goes on to say this in verse 24. Jump down there because he drops a bomb in verse 24. This is what he says. He says, listen, no one can actually serve two masters. You can't do it. You're not the exception to the rule. You'll either hate the one and love the other, or you'll be devoted to the one and despise the other. And then he says this, you cannot serve both God and money. In case you didn't get the metaphor, Jesus is saying, let me say it plainly and clearly. You cannot serve both God and money. Jesus is making an invaluable point about what we value most. Now, he uses some imagery at the beginning of verse 24 there, where he talks about masters and servants. And what he's doing in that moment, in that context, is he's pulling from a power dynamic that they understood. He's not endorsing or condoning slavery in any fashion. But what he's saying is, hey, you know how that dynamic works. Yeah, well, it doesn't work when a servant has two masters. It just doesn't work that way, right? And if he were to do this teaching in our day and our age today, what he would say is, you probably use the language of like boss and employee. That makes a little bit more sense when we think about it that way, right? That it doesn't really work, when you have two bosses. Think about it for a second. Have you ever had two bosses before? How was that experience? Just ask anyone that works here at Soul City. Oops. We're different. It can be complicated if the work's not done right? Or maybe you didn't have like two direct bosses, but I bet a lot of us have had this. You have like your boss that's in the office, but then you also have the mysterious regional manager, right? Or then you like have to interact with them, and it seems like they're not on the same page, or they don't even know that the other one exists sometimes. And you're like, who am I actually reporting to when this one asks me, what do I do? You ever had that happen before? Or how about this? Who here, either currently or has had to in the past, has worked more than one job? You've worked multiple jobs at the same time. Lots of us have, right? When I was finishing up college, Jeannie and I were getting pretty serious, and I wanted to propose to her, but the one job that I had was not going to pay for that ring. And so I had to get my hustle on. And so over the course of a couple of months, about 3 months, I would get up at 5 a.m. in the morning to go do a landscaping job that I got. So I took care of this whole condo development, did all the landscaping for there. Then I would go from there every other day to classes because I was finishing up college at the time. And so then I'd go to classes. Then on the other days that I wasn't in college, I would go work at the church that I was a part of. I was like the youth pastor there. And so on those days, I'd go work there. But then at nights, no matter what I did on those days, at nights I went and I delivered pizzas by where I lived. And so I would deliver pizzas all night. And then on the weekends, I actually had a construction job that I worked as well, just to be able to pay for that ring. And I can tell you what Jesus is talking about here is true, because I didn't just love one and hate the other. I hated all of those jobs. But I loved that girl, and I wanted to get her a ring. But I hated all of those jobs, right? You know how that can be. Like even if you're like at the most basic level, you've ever tried to do two sports at one time, right? It's complicated, it's hard, it's tricky, it doesn't work. Eventually, one is going to win out over the other, whether it's work or sports or money or God. One will eventually take dominance, control, become the boss of your heart. You can't have it both ways, is what Jesus is saying here. And for you to experience financial freedom, what Jesus is getting at here is that your financial freedom, just hearing that, like, doesn't that sound good? Like, we all want that, right? Financial freedom. Freedom from debt, freedom from the burden or the anxiety of money. Like, we just want to it looks different for all of us, but we want to feel and experience financial freedom. And what Jesus is saying here is that your financial freedom hangs on who holds your heart, period. Your financial freedom hangs on who holds your heart. Is it God or is it money? Who holds your heart? What comes first? Because my hunch is you already know this. I know that you know this. But the way life works, just the way it works for just about every single one of us, is that your life is actually formed by what you put first. True? Your life is formed by what you put first. It goes back to where you spend your time, your energy, your thoughts, your money. That's where you'll find, how did Jesus say it? Oh yeah, that's where you'll find your heart. That's where your heart is. Look, you know that's true, because I just want to take a second and celebrate, and let's just take a second to do it as a church. Everyone from our church who ran the marathon last weekend. Can we celebrate them? Like, that is no joke. See you, Mike. That's no joke. It's a big deal. Now, for those of us who ran it this last weekend or who've run it in the past, I know you've tried to block this time out of your life, but do you remember training? Do you remember when you were training for the marathon? Do you remember how that just kind of became all you thought about? And it filled up your schedule, it filled up your priorities, what you ate. When you missed a run, you felt it, all because of one run you were going to do at the end of it all. It became first in your life, and it kind of dominated your life. So you know that principle is true, right? In your life, whatever you put first forms your life. And so I just think it would be important for us to just get honest about what it is that we've put first in our life. And what Jesus is saying here is, look, just be honest about it. You can't have it both ways. You actually have to. I have to. No one can do this for you. You have to choose who's going to be the boss of me. You have to decide, to quote the late 20th century theologians, the Wu-Tang Clan, does cash rule everything around me? Cream, dollar bills. Does it actually rule everything around me? Or does God? I mean, you just got to get honest about that. I actually have to get honest about that. Now, here's the thing when it comes to this radical teaching. I feel like I have to say this because Jesus is so honest and so, it's just yeah, this is just how it works. Here's the thing. I've been following Jesus for a long time. I've been a pastor for a long time, and I've talked about God and money for a long time. It's not weird to me, because it wasn't weird to Jesus. It's not weird to me to talk about it. But here's what I found when it comes to these kinds of teachings like Jesus, where he's so honest and so clear and so direct about things that are so personal and dear to us. Here's what I found about these kinds of teachings of Jesus. Nobody thinks he's talking to them. That's just the truth. Nobody. No one thinks when we hear this kind of teaching, you have to decide. You can't have two different people calling the shots for you, two different things calling the shots for your life. You have to decide, is it going to be God or is it going to be money? Nobody thinks Jesus is actually talking to them, because nobody thinks that their life is ruled by money. Nobody. And I know this? I've been a pastor for a very long time, and I've had the privilege of sitting with and meeting with and praying with countless people. And as I was preparing for our time this weekend, I tried to sit back and remember if ever anyone sat across from me or asked me to pray for them because they're just so greedy. And I can't think of a single person that looked me in the eyes and said, Pastor, I just need you to pray for me. I'm just so greedy. All I want is money. That's all I think about. Will you just pray for me? I don't know if anyone in our prayer hall would ever say, that's what someone came in, just owning that they are so greedy, because we don't think of ourselves that way. I've prayed with lots of people. I've prayed with a ton of people who have hit rock bottom financially. I prayed for lots of people and met with people who've been overwhelmed by debt. Prayed for lots of people who got themselves, by their own admission, into financial mess. But I can't think of a single solitary person that ever actually said, I'm just so greedy. Because think about it. No one thinks it applies to them, but my hunch is you have some people that you think are greedy. And do you want to know what the truth is about the people that you think, whether they're politicians or Wall Street bros or whatever it is? Do you know what the people that you think are greedy think about themselves? They don't think they're greedy either. This one is so hard to see in the mirror. We just don't own this one, even though greed actually made the list of the top 7 deadly sins. We just don't think this one actually applies to us. We just say things like, I'm just trying to get ahead. That's all. I'm not greedy. That sounds gross. No, I'm just trying to get ahead. Or I'm just trying to get out of debt. Or I'm just trying to secure my future. or I'm just trying to get into the lifestyle that I deserve. And those things may be true. But if you've ever found yourself worrying about not having enough money, or dreaming, like daydreaming about having more money, like you've already scratched those lottery tickets in your mind, or staying in a job that you hate because it pays you so well, or buying things that are beyond your budget, or not even actually having a budget, it might just mean that you are not actually calling the shots in your life. That there is something else that has become the boss of you. And if you can get to that level of honesty, like really, like reflective honesty, availability, like, yeah, it's not how I thought it was. It's not how what I think of when I think of greedy or being obsessed with money. But yeah, I can see how I've made plenty of decisions, or I've revved myself up with fear and anxiety around money plenty of times. If you can get that honest, then you're finally in a place to actually see that money makes for a terrible boss of your heart. Like think of the worst boss you've ever had. Go back to that fast food restaurant that you worked at, maybe. For me, go back to Blockbuster Video. Think of the worst boss you ever had. Money is worse than them at being a boss in your life. It's just not a good boss. Think about it. It's utterly inconsistent. It's never satisfied. It has changing values. It actually is never around when you need it. And it seems to like everyone else more than it likes you. In fact, it seems as though it doesn't even care about you nearly as much as you care about it. In fact, the truth is, it doesn't care about you at all. I'm sorry to burst your bubble. It doesn't. It doesn't care about you. And you want to know who gave money that kind of power? To be that terrible of a boss and yet have that big of sway in our lives? Here's the deal. It's not American consumerism. It's not our politics. It's not a cultural thing. Do you know who gave money all that power over your heart and over my heart? We did. You did. I did. No one else gave money that power other than you and me. I love this. When I read this a couple years back, I was like, yes, this is what we're talking about here. It's in a book called The Soul of Money, written by Lynn Twist. Great book called The Soul of Money by Lynn Twist. And listen to what she says. Money has only the power that we assign to it, period. It only has the power that we give it. And we have assigned it immense power. Money only inherently has the power that we give to it, and we tend to give it a lot of power in our life. And yes, it's true that that's happening culturally. Maybe that was true of your family of origin, but at the end of the day, each of us is the only one that gives money the power that it actually has in our life. And here's the crazy thing about it. Here's the crazy thing about it. This is, let's just stop for a second. It's literally just paper. Really, just stop the insanity for a second. It's just paper. That's like its physical form. That's all it is. Its value is something that we have given it, right? It's just paper. And it is an utterly non-emotional entity. It's not personal. I think let's just be honest. It feels nothing for you because it's paper. It can't. Now, let's just get real honest for a second. Has anyone here ever, and I want you to be honest about this, has anyone here ever worried about, stressed about, felt anxious about, got kind of maybe a little sick or nervous about money ever in your life? Raise your hand. That should be everyone. All of us have felt a certain kind of way about money, but money has never felt any way about you. Because it can't. It can't. It's not personal. It just can't. So why would we ever give something like that kind of power over our heart, over our mind, over our life? See, what Jesus wants us to get here, it sounds really simple, almost even silly to say, but is that money is a terrific tool. I want to be really clear about it. He's not preaching against money, okay? Money is a terrific tool. but it's a terrible boss. Like, it's a great employee, it's a terrible boss. It's a terrific tool. It's great. It has its place and it has its purpose. It can do wonderful things in your life. And it can make a terrible mess of your life if you make it the boss. Maybe this weekend, like, the whole reason you're here is just to, like, kind of come to a place to say, I think I want a better boss. That you deserve, actually, a better boss. We need a better boss than just more money. That's what Jesus is getting at here. That there is a God. And that he is actually, he's good. Like all those characteristics I shared a second ago about money as your boss, it's inconsistent, doesn't care about you, it's never around when you need it. Do you know that God's categorically the exact opposite of that? That he's good. That he loves you. He's always thinking about you. He has more than enough. He is more than enough for you. He always only wants his best for your life. There is a God. He is good. There is another way, and it's such a better way. It's when you allow God to lovingly lead your life. When you put him first, remember that? You put him first, your life gets formed by that. Your life follows that by just putting him first. And I think lots of times when it comes to our finances and God, I don't think any of us have a problem going to God with our finances. It's just when we go to him, right? Lots of times, like, God's the first place we go when we have financial problems. Oh God, oh God, oh God, oh God, right? Totally been there. We've all prayed those kind of prayers, right? God is the first place we go with our financial problems, but oftentimes the last place we go with our financial plans. And all God is saying is here is, like, just put me first. Can God help you? Like, when you get, circumstances beyond your control, medical bills that come in that you didn't see coming, and, oh man, loss of a job. Can God help you? Absolutely, God can help you. In fact, the Bible says God's an ever-present help in times of trouble. Of course, God loves to help you, but he also loves to lead you. He loves when you put him first and start with him at the center, and then let your life be formed by that. So the real question is for each of us to consider today is, will you let God be the boss of your heart? Will you let him be the boss of your life? Will you say, okay, God, I'll follow you. I will let you lovingly lead me in all areas, including my money. For me, when I get stuck or when I get revved up and I find myself kind of, dancing around this whole idea of, I don't have enough money, and how's this going to work, or how are we going to pay for this, or, all those things, all valid and fine and good. I've found that for me, what helps to kind of put God back in the center, put God in the right place, is a simple little prayer. It's almost like a mantra. Maybe you have like a mantra or something in your life. It's such a simple mantra. And in a second, I'm actually going to have you say it to each other. So get ready, all right? So get ready. You're going to look at someone and say words to them in a second. But I'm going to give you the words. So introverts, you'll be okay, all right? Here's a little mantra. When I find myself getting stressed out, revved up, all worked up about money, this is what I say. God is the boss of me. Go back to that phrase. God, you're the boss of me. And I'm the boss of my money. Maybe I forgot that. I'm the boss of my money. You can literally take your water brush and go, I'm the boss of you. I'm the boss of you. You don't tell me what to do, right? God's the one that does that. God leads me. God's the boss of me, and I'm the boss of my money. When I put him first and follow him, he will lead me into what to do with all of my resources. He will lead me into knowing how to discern what's something that's going to eventually fail or fade away, or what's something of God that I can get behind. But I got to make him the boss, and then I got to be the boss of my money. So I want you to turn to the person next to you. Everyone look at someone. Again, this is not metaphorical. Like, I would need you to do this. And if you're at a Starbucks watching online, find someone at the table next to you. Just see what happens. Follow me on this one. Look him in the eyes, and this is what I want you to say. Say this. Say, God is the boss of me, and I'm the boss of my money. Okay, now say it like you mean it. God is the boss of me, and I'm the boss of my money. And I think we need to be reminded of that. That it's actually, honestly, That simple. God, I want you to be the boss. I want you to be in charge. I want you to be in control. And I'll follow you. I want to put you first so that my life can be formed by you. And then I'll be able to tell my money where to go and what to do, to enjoy it for all that it can do. It's a terrific tool. Just a terrible boss. And so I want to give you a little homework as we close out this teaching for today. I want to give you 2 next steps. One is one that you're going to do this week, and then one's one that we're going to do in like 60 seconds. First bit of homework I want to give you comes later in the week. If you want to say, God, I want you to be the boss of me. I want you to lovingly lead my life, and I want to get money out of the center of my heart so I can put it in its proper place. Here's a great next step for you. It's coming up this Saturday. It's our Money Wise workshops. This is one of the best, most spiritually practical things that we offer to get your money right, to get God at the center. And I think, isn't it so crazy that I'm teaching on God and money taking, and it just happens to be this Saturday? Isn't that crazy that happened? I don't know. Let's just go with it. And so it's this Saturday, and it's not just a workshop. It's better to be called workshops, because there's little workshops within it on how to set a budget, how to work on getting out of debt, how to begin to save for your future, how to do money right with God at the center, God coming first. It fills up almost every single time. So I just want to encourage you. It's this Saturday. If you have felt any of what we've been talking about here today, what Jesus was speaking to 2,000 years ago, I think this is a great next step. I think this is a great next step. And the last one, and then I'm done. Some of you who've been going to church for a while, you're familiar with church stuff. John's been going to church for many years, right, John? You know this thing inside and out. He's a church pro. He probably noticed, or maybe you noticed, that we have not done the thing where we receive an offering this week, right? Because normally I do that towards the top of the message. We do that to give a chance for you to respond to God. We did not do that. Because what I wanted to do was talk about this from the heart of Jesus first, and then let's just, as a spiritual practice, give ourselves the opportunity to practice it. To actually have an opportunity to say, wait, this is how I do it. This is how I put God in the center instead of my money. I just release my resources. I invest in things of God in this world, like the work of this church and its ministries in this city and around the world. Oh, this is how I begin to do it. And I know that there's some of you, there's some of our folks that might be cynical, and you're just thinking, oh yeah, you saved it to the end of the message so you could get more money. Maybe, I don't know, why not? Let's see what happens. Well, let's just see what happens first, okay? No, that's not why we did it. It's not why we did it. The majority of our church gives online anyway, so it's already all kind of set up. This is just a practice. And for some of you, it may mean, hey, I want to just start. I need to start. And so we say it every week, 3 ways you can give. Go online, set it up. You can text in to give. That'll help you get it set up. Or you can actually give in this moment. Some people love to give in this moment. It's their way of saying, God, I'm releasing. I'm not going to let this sit at the center of my life. It will not be the boss of me. What a beautiful act. That's why we do it. Not out of guilt or obligation, but out of joy and gratitude for how God has blessed us. So we're going to give. Does that sound good? And I'd love to pray for us before we do. So let me pray for you. Let me pray for us. Jesus, thank you for this teaching. So unapologetically unambiguous. You're not weird around money, Jesus. We don't want to be either. And so help us to do the thing that you've invited us to do, to put you at the center, to take anything and everything that's trying to take control of our heart, be the boss of our lives, out of that place and place you where you belong. You are worthy. You have proven yourself, God, that you are good and you are faithful and you are kind and you are loving. God, it's us that needs to be reminded of that. And so help us today to just do that, specifically when it comes around money, God. I just pray that there would be such a movement of the Holy Spirit that is not, there's not any guilt or any shame or any fear, but like that taste of freedom that comes when we give you the reins of our heart. I pray that that would be true of our church. May we get this one right so that we can experience the life that you actually have created us for and called us into. So Jesus, thank you. God, be blessed, and Holy Spirit, move as only you can do as we give and respond to you now. It's in your name that we pray. Amen.
going to respond together in worship, declaring the truths back to Him that He is worthy, He is holy. Come on, sing this out with me. Holy, Jesus, you are holy. Heaven shouts your glory. All creation sings. All creation sings. You're holy. Holy. join with heaven's praise, declaring that your name alone is worthy. We join with heaven's praise, declaring that your name alone is worthy.
That is the heartbeat of this place. That we would step so deep into a transforming relationship with Jesus that literally all of our lives would be in praise and exploration and extolation of who God is. That is our deepest, deepest desire, that you would experience a transforming relationship with him, and all worthy and praise and honor would rise to him. We are so glad that you're here, so glad that you came today. I hope that God had something just for you. My hunch is he did. And if he's stirring in any way in your life today, we would love to invite you to the prayer hall. Our team would love nothing more than to pray for you and with you, whatever's going on in your life. Again, ladies, where are you in the house? Because I need to make sure that you have all plans cleared on Friday night. So no dates, just here at Eden, no excuses, free childcare. Come on. If you volunteer, your ticket is for free, so don't miss it. I can't wait to be with you at Eden, and then next Sunday we'll be back here continuing on in our series. We love you. We're praying for you. We pray that God would wreck your life with his amazing love and grace. We'll see you next week.